Hey folks, what's going on? This is Mr. Jones. Please excuse if I look tired and or dirty. Both. Look at my hands. Just got done working on a car and messing with these parts over here. I went and grabbed some parts so I can particularly make this video. Um, of interesting thing, a customer, I worked on a car, no names, no nothing like that. Everything's good. I worked on a car maybe like 2 months ago or so. I remember pretty well. This particular vehicle, this is the Ford SUV, the Ford Edge. Um, and I put two rear hub assemblies on there. The hub assemblies have the bearings on the inside. All right. You can separate the two, but I'd have to use my machine press, and I don't like using it. Things get dangerous because it can take a lot of hydraulic force to separate these bearings these days. So what I've noticed here, what was it, Monday, I got a text message and it was just a screenshot, and apparently someone went to a shop and had a wheel hub assembly placed again, and it's only been 2 months. And that normally doesn't happen, so that looks very fishy. So I have the technician notes that was screenshotted, all of that. So just to, some of these things seem fishy to me. So let's read these. These are like three different thoughts of notes here, and let's go through them real quick. The first one says passenger wheel bearing is loose. Next one says need to remove bearing to check and see if all the bolts are good. And then the third one says reinstall bearing to start, may need new bearing in all bolts. Okay, so the reason why this sounds very fishy to me is because a bearing normally, when you put a bearing in like this, especially what we're dealing with here. Let's see if we can grab this bearing right here. So this is a bearing. This is probably going to look identical to the Ford Edge. Nice hefty hub assembly. It's got the bearing on the inside. All right, spins around, and the axle goes in here, points this way. And actually, I've got an axle right here. All right, this is just like it would be in that SUV. Boom. All right, it's splined on the inside. So even without an axle nut, if you were to move it, it's going to move that axle. All right. Now let's put our axle nuts. So what I found unique with the Edge is this one. I don't know if they all do or if it was just this one that someone did, but it had two axle nuts on each bearing. So this nut doesn't fit this axle, but let's put this axle nut on so I can kind of explain. That's one axle nut. Second, you're gonna put that on nice and tight, and then you got your second axle nut that you're gonna put on there tight. All right. Okay. So they got a good safety thing going on here. All right. So let's just get these out of the way. Okay. So on the outside, those are the only two nuts that you're messing with, that you need to think about to get this bearing out. I'm sorry, hub assembly off the vehicle. Once of course, you got to get your brakes and tires, brakes, rotors off. Then you're going to be down to this. Get your two axle nuts off. Then, right here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 bolts in the back. Now, with these 4 bolts, right, they need a special tool. And I made this special tool. I think this is a T60, Torx 60. All right. I had to make this special tool because in the middle here, it had to get past the ABS ring. So you won't be able to do it by hand. You're going to need to do it with a tool to get in there, because the outside of the bolts are round. You don't have nothing to grip. You can't really get your hand down in there, but you can see down there really well. You just need to get this guy in there. That ABS ring, it does not help you. But this works really well. And that's, you're going to use your tool to get them on, and then you're going to tighten them down when you're putting them on. Or, if you're taking the hub assembly off, those are the 4 bolts in the back that you take off. Okay. Now, the thing is, like I said, I just put that axle on. What was so unique to this vehicle, or maybe all Edges do this? I don't know. I guess I haven't worked on too many Edges, but I do a lot of bearings for various cars, however many cars I do. So, imagine this spins on real tight. Tighten it down. Remember, this axle nut doesn't go to it. Second axle nut. You tighten this down. All right. This thing is it's locked in there. And of course, you're going to have your 4 bolts in the back. Oh, dirty hands on camera. Anyway, of course, you're going to have your 4 bolts in the back. And I know to take my time and tighten those down. Those are very important to me. The reason why I'm making this video is because I definitely stand behind my work. I don't know the story, unfortunately. And the tech notes are really weird to me because one of the tech notes says, need to remove bearing to check and see if all the bolts are good. So how many bolts is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, the ones in the back, you can stick your head behind the tire and see 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see them. Um, and the front, as soon as you take the wheel off, they are exposed. They are exposed as soon as you take that wheel off. All right. So when you look in the back, first of all, when you have a wheel in question, just lift the car up and shake the wheel. Is there movement? If there is, where's the movement coming from? Okay. So if someone's telling you that they need to remove the hub assembly to see if everything's okay, that makes absolutely no sense. Unless you're hearing grinding and this and that internally, and then at that point you're probably going to change the bearing on the inside. This was just done 2 months ago. So number one, was there play? Number two, why are we taking this out just to check what? Two big nuts and then four little ones in the back. Okay. And then why do we need a new one? Like I've said in my other videos, why do we need a new one? When these go bad, they start to grind. They make a grinding noise because they got a ball bearing on the inside. All right. Your car's weight sits on this thing. Now this thing's only like about 2 months old. I could you get it to explode? I haven't seen it. What type of damage can you do? You're not going to do any damage to these splines on the inside. You've got two axle nuts holding it, whereas most cars only have one. So I will never know because I wasn't there with my own eyes witnessing things, right? So that's the unfortunate part of that. But yeah, I would love to know let me see what that old bearing looks like, and how will we change that? Now, I can imagine that if somebody didn't know what were doing and they damaged one of these lug nuts, imagine your rotors and brakes here, your tire goes on there. So if somebody's not doing what they're supposed to or whatever, damaging that, you're going to try and sell them a hub assembly. And I'm not saying that's what happened. I have no clue because I was not there. So I just find that to be fishy. Number two, it is easy to change these. 4 bolts in the back, 2 nuts in the front, out. Well, you might have to hammer it out, but this is so new, 2 months ago. You don't need to hammer that out. It should be able to come out. That's one thing. And then remember, when going down the road, your rotor sits on here, and your brake pads are right there. So as the rotor's going past, your brake pads are right here. So I gotta wonder where there's some crazy noises, or I'll never know, and you won't be able to describe a noise, right? So, I just find that to be, very interesting. And then in the notes, reinstall bearing to start, may need new bearing in all bolts. Reinstall bearing to start, may need new bearing in all bolts. What was wrong with the old one? And if something was loose, could you tighten it? Because those bolts are pretty hefty. I can't imagine anything breaking. These aren't fragile parts, all right? So I find that to be interesting. So I just wanted to put a video out really quick because, by the way, I got this text sometime Monday, and then I've been busy all day today. Today's Tuesday. It's Tuesday night. I'll put this out Wednesday morning. I hope it can help somebody out. I wish I knew the size of the of this tool that I made. I think it's a T60. I needed to know that when I got this vehicle, but I got it. But yeah, and I take my time on things like this. This is why I offer like a 30-day warranty. I take my time on things like this. So I'm just curious as to what happened, and I don't need to know. I'm not even curious. I'm just saying, it's an event that I haven't been able to visit. You take your car to where you want, but I thought that this was a responsible way of responding to someone who's saying that they needed to spend money on something that I had done. I thought that was to me, this is a very responsible way of explaining, showing in detail, and trying to back my work up. and making sure not to dodge your customers. Hey, thank you guys very much for watching. Please feel free to put a comment down there. Feel free to comment if I did a good job explaining myself or not. What can I work on? Hey, much appreciated. This is Mr. Jones. Hey, thank you very much for watching. Excuse the dirt. Have a good one, y'all.